as children of Asian immigrants?
So I'm also an immigrant, and I just moved here like 4 years ago during like the middle of pandemic. So at school, like the first day of school, I experienced discrimination, like go back to the country. And the second time that I experienced some racism was in 8th grade. I was trying to grab my lunch, trying to find a table, like get a chair and sit down, trying to eat my lunch. And once I sat down, a guy across me started standing up, switching his seat and telling his friends like, that girl has coronavirus, so you should like get on it, like the new table. I stared at them really hard because like, what are you doing? And at that time, I listened to English, but I couldn't speak any, so I just like sat there and stared at them. And the second thing that I experienced like some difficulty was at home, because my parents are also immigrants, so they do really have high expectations for me at school, like get all straight A's, be a good student, and get treated just like your brother. I understand his perspective, like my dad, because he's also a normal worker at some factories. So he said like, education is a really important thing that you can have in your life. First, it can elevate you to a higher social class. The second thing, you can help yourself and help the people around you with a higher education. I understand his perspective, but at the same time, he told me that every single day, so I really feel stressed about that. And that are some of my difficulties when I experience when I'm at home and go to school as an immigrant and as a child, like parents immigrants.
Thank you very much, Doris, for your answer. And our second question is, how do you think and feel about instructional materials or resources? Are they inclusive and representative? Do you see yourself in textbooks?
Good afternoon. My name is Leo Choi, and I think before I answer the question, there needs to be a little bit more context about what I've learned. So far at school, I've taken AP US History, AP World History, AP Euro History, and I've looked into courses on AP African Studies. Now, for a nation that prides itself on being a representative country of all types of races and all types of people that accepts anyone from any country, and a nation that has no national language because there's too many languages to count, because there's too many people from different places, I feel like there's a lack of Asian representation in any kind of studies. There's no AP Asian history. There's no discussions of Asians in any world history classes focusing on it. There's short units, like 2 days on Japan during World War II, or Asia during the rice and things like that, like focusing on small, minute details on how there was little impact. But there's hours and days on American scientists, European scientists. And it's not that there's not enough history of Asians to talk about. There's way more history in Asia than there is in America. Asia's been here for a very long time, and I feel like there's little to no representation in Asia. There's no discussion of scientists from Asia. We've had discoveries as well, we've talked about things as well, and we've found things that others haven't found as well, yet there's no discussion of it.
Thank you very much, Rio, for your answers. And Youngjin has another one.
So I'm Youngjin, and I also feel that there is a lack of representation of Asians within history and the instructional materials that we see. I'm also taking AP US History, and like Leo said, there's not a lot about Asian history within AP US History, even though Asians have been living in the US since the 19th century. Asians are a key cornerstone in US history, yet we're barely talked about. And the worst part is that I feel that even though we are highly underrepresented in AP US History, this is still the most representation I have seen of Asians throughout all my years of education, even though I think that it is vital that people are taught about Asian history from a young age so that young Asian children can feel represented, feel included, because I know when I was in elementary school, I was learning about all these great historical figures like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Abe Lincoln, but none of them were like me, and I felt a disconnect from the history that I was learning. I didn't feel like I had any place in US history. I didn't know who I could look up to, and I think it's vital that every young Asian American student has somebody they can look up to, and I think it's also vital that people who aren't Asian can broaden their horizons, and this might even help combat racism, because as we know, racism is something that is taught. It's not something that we are inherently born with. And I also feel that with the representation that's within history right now for Asians, there needs to be more nuance, because the representation we have right now is painting the picture that Asians are kind of this outsider, this foreign thing, because my friend, up until now, she did not know about Japanese internment camps, even though she knew extensively about the Pearl Harbor bombing. And by not adding these nuances, Asians are alienated, and we can see this in real life after the 9/11 attacks. There was an uptick in Muslim hate crimes, and had there been more representation for Muslims within history, we might not have seen this. And we even see this hatred in laws, such as the Muslim travel ban that appeared a couple of years ago. And I think it's just vital that we learn about this history so we can combat racism.
Thank you very much. Young-jin and Leo, for your answer to the question about the inclusivity and the equity of the Asian American history in school curriculum. And our third question is about gun violence, and how do you think about gun violence and its safety controls? Do you feel safe going to school?
Yeah, so I got stuck with a tough question, but I'm going to stand when I answer. So, 안녕하세요. That's about all the Korean I know, but I'm very appreciative of all the people that have gathered today. And so, the question being what we think about gun violence, especially as Asian Americans, and how I feel going to school. You know, in Gwinnett County Public Schools, we have close to 200,000 students and 25,000 members of staff. And they do their best. I believe Gwinnett County Public Schools is one of the best school systems in the state of Georgia. But we do see people and things slip through the cracks. We've seen firearms come to school. We've seen knives, stabbings, drug deals going on. And so there's a lot that's affecting our Asian American youth and the way we feel about going to school. Personally, me, I love going to school. You know, I know not every kid says that, but I love going to school. It's an experience. But that changes when we see acts of gun violence happen at schools, at churches, synagogues, public gathering events. That all changes when we see it. And when we saw